Hey, what's up guys? It's Cooper from Tyray Films, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use Adobe Premiere Pro. Now these are just going to be some of the basic editing techniques within the software, and I know I created a tutorial last week on how to create a professional looking slideshow, and I thought since I'm going to be releasing these tutorials about every week now, I better start with the basics before I get too in-depth on my tutorials. So without further ado, let's get started on the basics. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is open up Adobe Premiere Pro. And the first screen it's going to show you is going to give you the option to create a new project. So once I go to New Project, you're going to see a name column to name your video, whatever you want, and then a location column as well to locate wherever you're going to save your video and possibly export in the future. But I've already created a video set, so it's going to take you to the same screen. I just already have this set up, and the first thing you're going to see is this page right here, just an empty screen. And what you want to do is first import any media you have. So you can either go up to File, scroll down and import, or you can go down to this media panel down here and double click and it'll give you an import option as well. Or you can do what I usually do is just click on my Finder tab. I think it's easier to find things in here, and go to Documents or whatever, wherever you have your videos stored. In this case, I have a folder with I think 4 videos I'm going to use for this tutorial. So once I've dragged and dropped down here, usually what I like to do when I start creating videos is go to my assembly panel up here. It's a lot more spacious and allows you to work with a lot more room. And I like to see these previews of videos because I never really remember what I'm shooting. But if you know exactly what the video is, or you have your file named or something like that, you can always switch it to list. It's a lot more organized looking and a lot easier to use. But for me, I'm just going to have this preview set up. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are sequences. And in this case, all of these shots are filmed in 1080, 24 frames per second. So I can just drag and drop, and it's going to set this timeline to exactly 1080, 24 frames per second. But say I didn't want that, and I wanted to set this sequence to a certain frame rate. So I do this a lot with a lot of my videos. If I shoot in 60 frames per second, I want to set the timeline to 30 frames per second, so I kind of get that smooth, slowed down look for my 60. So what I'll do for that is go down to New Item, Sequence, and you're going to see all of these options right here. But for me, I use a DSLR, and this is usually the preset I use right here, is the 1080 30 FPS, and that just kind of slows down my 60 frames per second and sets the standard for your timeline. But other than that, I'm just going to stick to what I have right here since these videos are all the same. So I'm going to start with 2 down here. Now, one of the first things I'm going to show you guys is just how to cut up your videos really easily. You can start from either the beginning or the end of your video, and say I didn't want to start from here, I want to start from mid-path right there. I can just drag and it's going to connect to this bar right here, and then boom. That's easy as that. If you want to take it back, you can. Same thing from the end. And if you want to do it same with the audio, in case you are working with audio and you want to sync voices together, you don't want to get out of sync with your audio, you can drag them both at the same time. Now on to changing the rate and duration of your video. It's actually really easy. You just click on your video and then double click, and then you can scroll down in this list of options and you'll see a speed and duration option. This is going to allow you to change the speed percentage of your video, or even set a duration. So say I set it to 10 seconds, that's going to speed up my video to a certain percentage. I'm not really sure exactly what, but there are other ways to change the speed as well. Let me shorten this up so you can see. There's a list of tools on the side of your sequence, and if you hold down on this ripple effect tool, you'll see a rate stretch tool. And this is one of the tools I love to use because it's so easy and efficient. Now if I do that, that is going to speed up my video. But if I pull all the way back, this is going to slow it down. So you can see the big difference there, and it's easy as that. Instead of double clicking and going all the way to that menu, it's just easy to use. One more thing I'm going to show you on this sequence is how to connect your videos. When I first started using Premiere Pro, I couldn't get this video like perfectly aligned, and I kept messing it up, kind of rubbing into this, and I didn't know that there is a snap tool. Now the snap tool is basically a magnet, so when you want to put your next video, it's just going to click on like that, so you don't have any black space between your videos. Another way to do this, instead of actually selecting, clicking, and dragging, you can select between the two videos, double click, and you'll see a ripple delete, and it's easy as that. They're just going to come together. So there are two ways of doing that. Both are pretty easy to do. Alright, on to the next thing I'm going to be talking about. There's a lot of cool shortcuts you can use within Adobe Premiere Pro. I honestly learned by printing out this sheet right here, after clicking up on the Premiere Pro icon, then clicking keyboard shortcuts. I printed this out, set it next to my computer, and edited and forced myself to kind of learn some of these shortcuts. They are super helpful, so I definitely encourage you to learn some of these shortcuts. And I'm also going to teach you how to use some of these within the video today. The first shortcut I'm going to be talking about is the letter C. This is your cut tool. So if I hit this, it's going to be the same as this cut or razor tool right here. And I use this for matching audio and just kind of cutting what I don't want in a video. So if you see cut right there, it splits up the clip. But I'll show you an example of using it with audio. Now let me just pull a random song I have in my documents right here. And I'm going to slide this under the first clip. So say I want to match it to the first beat. Let's listen to this song. So you see this first kind of Congo drum in the song. I want to match right on this. So with the arrow keys, it's going to move you frame by frame. And you can get as close as you can get with this song. I think right there is going to be fine. You won't notice too much of a difference if it's not perfectly on it. So I'm going to cut the video right there, and now I can bring this other video and we can switch right on the beat. And just like that, that's how I match music with my sequence. Every time I create a video, it's a super easy tool to help you match that kind of beat. And the other shortcut I'm going to talk about is when I try to catch things that kind of look off in my video, I use the letter L. So this playback is super slow right here. To speed it up, just hit L in your sequence. And that is actually so helpful. Instead of sitting there watching, maybe if I've created a 5-minute video, it just takes forever to kind of figure out what is wrong with my video if I want to find anything. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to be showing you guys is just some of the basic scaling and keyframing in Adobe Premiere Pro. This is actually really simple. A lot of people think it's complicated, but it's a lot simpler than it looks in a lot of different videos. So first things first, to set a keyframe, you just hit toggle animation on this little stopwatch, and there's my first keyframe, if you can kind of see right there. And to set the next keyframe, all you're going to do is just have to change this number right here. So say I change it to 200. Boom. So basically you're telling your computer to zoom in to 200 by this point. So as you can see, it's moving right in. And this same keyframe effect can apply to your positioning. This is your left and right. This is your up and down. And then down here you can also rotate your image as well. The keyframing can also apply with your opacity as well. You can kind of set like 100% opacity, for example, here, and then by the end, or by the middle right here, I can go to maybe like 20, and you can see how that kind of fades out. That's kind of how Adobe creates a dip to black transition in a lot of different aspects. I'm going to talk to you about one more thing before ending this tutorial, and that is your in and out markers when exporting. So say you're scrubbing through your sequence and you have a lot of scrap footage or audio over here that you don't want in your exported footage. One thing I use all the time is an in and an out marker to tell your computer what you want exported. So in this case, I'm going to hit I on my keyboard, which creates the in marker, which is pretty simple. And then for out, hit O. So now my computer knows all I want is this shaded in gray area of this clip right here. So when I go to File, you want to export your video through Media. And you'll see those in and out markers are right there, and it's going to export only that. Now let's cancel and go back real quick. And if you want to clear these in and out markers, sometimes I place them in the wrong spot. Maybe it's kind of barely off like it is right there. You can hit Alt X or Option X, and that clears everything off. Now to exporting, this is a pretty simple task. Just same thing, File, Export Media. And a lot of times I'm going to be exporting in a H.264. This is a pretty new preset that people are exporting with, and it's really compressed, doesn't take up much space on your computer, and you don't lose much quality when sending it through say your iPhone or a Samsung, whatever you have. A lot of people decide to do QuickTime sometimes with Mac computers and Apple devices, but H.264 is the best option in my opinion. And you can either match source. This high bitrate is actually one of the best options you can use if you don't really have anything specific you're exporting to. You can choose a phone option to look great if you send it over iPhone or anything like that. But for me, since I'm uploading YouTube, I always choose this YouTube 1080 HD, and that is always the best result on YouTube for me, and it always looks great. So say I click on that. We don't have anything else to queue or render. I only have one video, so I can just, you can see it's kind of shaded in gray, but I can export immediately however I like. And then before you export, just make sure you have your video saved as whatever name you want it as, and then where you want it to be located once this is done exporting. So all you got to do is hit export, and that is that. It's a really simple software to use. I think it's a lot better and user-friendly than some of these softwares now that Adobe has kind of updated their software a little bit. Alright, so that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was pretty helpful for you. I'm probably going to end up making another basic editing tutorial next week, just to cover some of the things like inputting LUTs or using video effects and transitions in Adobe Premiere Pro. So stay tuned for that, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next week.